So today I was going to talk with the little ones, and I'll talk with all of you about getting mad. Sometimes I get mad. You ever get mad? Yep. Most of us get mad at one point or another. Sometimes when we get mad, we do things that we regret later. What are some things that we do when we get mad that we regret later? Say hurtful things. Jeff agrees. What else?
Curse.
Curse. Ooh, yes. Yell maybe, right? Get really loud.
Punch the door.
Punch the door. Say something in anger that you really don't mean, right? Yeah. It's just that temper gets a hold of you, right? I'm thinking with little kids, right? Sometimes they kick and punch. Sometimes they fight, right? Throw, yep. Hopefully we've grown past some of those things. No, says Helmy. But that's the instinct, right? Lash out. Yeah, or otherwise, my brother, he's known for gritting his teeth so much that you can hear it when he gets angry. And I'm an expert because often I'm the one he's angry at. So, we do these different things, and either they can cause harm to others, or they can even cause harm to us. The stress, we lock that in, right? That's not healthy. So today we're going to get some wisdom from a very wise pastor, whose name is Mr. Rogers. It's a funny name for a pastor, but that was what he was, a Methodist pastor. And he has some advice today in a little song about what to do with the mad that you feel. So we're going to listen to that song. It's about a minute and a half.
What about the golden? Mr. Aber not there yet. Okay, nothing seems to be working out right today. All right, well, I'll see you a little later then. Thanks anyway. What do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad you could bite? When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you punch your bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag and see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead and think, this song, I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this, and know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a woman, and a boy can be someday a man. It's true. And there are some things that you can do when you feel.
So it's the statement kind of fades at the end. But he says there are some things you can do when you feel mad, productive things, right? So he talks about a couple in the song. What were some in the song? Did you catch them in the beginning? It says you can smash some clay or dough, punch a bag. Go play tag, right? So maybe some of us can't run very fast anymore, but we can take a time out, go someplace by ourselves, or take a walk, right? That can help us to calm down. Is there anything else that you do to help you calm down when you're feeling upset?
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Jamie likes that one. What else? Listen to music. Yep, I heard two people said that at the same time. Do yoga? Yeah. Kind of move your body, breathing. Sometimes counting helps people.
Smash the tennis ball.
Smash the tennis ball. Do some kind of sport, right? Yeah. Anything else? So all things that we can do to help ourselves to calm down, to stop, as Mr. Rogers says, right? Before we do something that we regret. And if if we do something that we regret. Today in the reading, Jesus says how important it is to try and make it right, to apologize, to reconcile is the word that he uses. And that can be difficult. It can be difficult to apologize when we've done something wrong. But it's important to know that God is there with us, helping us when we do something difficult like apologizing for a wrong that we've committed. And that God supports us in those moments. And that just as God offers us forgiveness, it's important that we offer forgiveness to others. So let's say a little prayer and give thanks for God's forgiveness and God's being with us in these difficult times. Dear God, sometimes we get mad. And sometimes we do things that after we do them, we regret it. Help us to stop and do something to help ourselves calm down. And if we forget to stop, help to give us the strength that we need to apologize and make it right. We know that you walk with us and give us strength even when we face difficult circumstances. We give you thanks for your presence and your guidance. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. So, this reading today, huh? Favorite one of all preachers. Yes, it is a doozy. Jesus seems to get real intense today, doesn't he? Last week, if you recall, he talked about the commandments, and he says he has not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. And then we go right into today's reading. Jesus takes these rules that God has set out for God's people, remember, to help guide them in their living, to lead them towards good things and away from evil things. And Jesus seems to intensify every one of these commandments. He says, you have heard it said that you should not murder. You'll be liable to judgment. But I say, if you get angry, insult somebody, call them a fool, you're liable to judgment. And that instead, you ought to reconcile with them. And then he says, you've heard it said that you should not commit adultery. But I say, if you even look at someone with lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. So if your eye causes you to sin, tear it out. Good advice, Jesus. If your hand causes you to sin, chop it off. Better that you lose a member of your body than for your whole self to be thrown into hell. Right? Oof. And then there's that stinker, right? Heard it said that if you want to divorce your wife, you have to give her a certificate of divorce. But I say, don't divorce your wife, unless she's been unfaithful. And if you do, you're causing her to commit adultery, or if you marry somebody who's been divorced, you're committing adultery. See? And then the last one, which we sometimes don't even hear, I think, because we're so caught up in that one. You've heard it said that you should not swear falsely. But I say, don't swear at all. Just say what you mean. Yes means yes. No means no. Goodness, Jesus. You having a bad day or something? Getting tired of these jokers who are following you? Thinking everything's going to be easy? Seems like that a little bit, doesn't it? Let's back up for a minute. Let's deal with that divorce thing before we move on. Because that always just like hits us right here, right here. So you'll notice, it's not if you divorce your wife or your husband. It's if you divorce your wife. This institution of divorce that Jesus is talking about is not the same institution that we have today of dissolving a marriage that was unhealthy or toxic or abusive. In fact, marriage wasn't even the same. Women in Jesus' time were literally property. And only a man had the power to divorce his wife. Which means, essentially, he could get rid of her, ditch that lady, for whatever reason. She's not bringing him children, new wife. Not cooking for him like he likes, new wife. So Jesus is trying, in this commandment, this interpretation of this commandment, to protect women so that they can't be thrown out on the streets, literally, for any old reason. All right, so we can move by that. So what does it mean for us, all of this stuff? How does it apply to us today? Well, let's think about it, right? How often do we today take offense when somebody disagrees with us? How easy is it then to get into an argument, start to call the other person's thoughts foolish? Think of campaign season, right? We're in the midst of it. What's the easiest tactic to get the edge over your opponent? Sling mud, insult them, right? Tell lies. It's kind of the way of the world, isn't it? And how about, what was the next one? Lustful gazes. How often do we see people objectified, women especially, in the media? Commercials where sex is used to sell something. Or even think of the Me Too movement, right? How much would those guys like to hear this advice from Jesus? Hey, if your eyes are wandering, tear them out, man. If your hands are wandering, cut them off. It's there in our world, isn't it? Exploitation of all people, but especially women. And broken relationships, right? That's this divorce one. Broken relationships. How easy is it when we have a broken relationship to just cut that person out of our life? Sometimes that's necessary. But sometimes it's just the easiest thing. And then that last one, that one we skip over. How often in our world do people make promises that they don't intend to keep? You think of politicians again, right? All those promises that they make to us now. How many of those are they intending to keep? Or even, anybody here a parent? Or ever parented a child? This one came to me. I'm not a parent, but I've parented. And think of those promises you make, right? Just to get them out of your hair. You don't intend to keep it. But it's just a kid. They won't remember anyway. Or it's a good life lesson. Not everything everybody says to you do they follow through. We're guilty of these things. We are. So in a world that's full of tension and division, exploitation, how do we walk in the light? Right? How do we, when we get mad, calm ourselves and be open to reconciliation? How do we, we, when we objectify or stereotype, be humble enough to be open to correction? How do we, when we get in conflict with somebody or are holding a grudge, how do we be compassionate enough to forgive? And when we've broken our word, how do we be honest enough to own up? How do we be people? Compassion and humility in today's world. This is what we're called to. Makes me think of somebody who actually passed away this week. His name is Joseph Shabalala from South Africa. He's a leader of a group, a musical group called Ladysmith Black Mambazo. Has anybody ever heard of this? No? Yeah. They're a really famous singing group. They kind of came to international fame by partnering with Paul Simon. Diamonds on the Soles of My Shoes. Maybe you know that song? They sing in that song. And Joseph Shabalala grew up in the midst of apartheid. But he had this dream that he would start this group, the singing and dancing group, and it would be modeled after a traditional singing and dancing group in South Africa where there's pretty competitive people like dance and sing and try to outdo one another, but he wanted this group to have some of those traditions but also have some of the traditions from his church choir. And he really wanted Christian values to be at the center of the group. And he was lucky enough to be able to start this group and then to gain fame. And I was lucky enough to see them perform 2 times when he was still the leader of the group. He had to retire a couple of years ago. And at the end of every performance, they performed songs about, we're kind of like Mr. Rogers for South Africa. Performed songs about conflict, about generational tension, about freedom and hope, about grace. And at the end of every performance, he had this ritual, this kind of blessing that he would do. And it went something like this. Peace, he would say. Peace, peace, love, and harmony. Those would be his final words before they would leave the stage. These thorny sayings, they sound difficult. But remember, these are the commandments. They're meant to guide us towards the light. And that's what they're actually all about. Peace, love, and harmony. How do we live with one another in peace, love, and harmony? Jesus isn't saying it's easy. But it's good. It's life-giving. And that's our call, to be people of light in a world that sometimes seems pretty dark. And to know that we aren't alone. God walks with us, and our brothers and sisters in Christ walk with us too.